Have you ever wondered why some men just seem to have it? That quiet, magnetic presence that doesn't need to shout for attention. The kind of calm confidence that feels both strong and deeply reassuring. In a world filled with loud voices and endless advice on how to get a woman's attention, it's easy to feel like you're just playing a part, following a script that never really feels like you. But what if the key to standing out wasn't about learning new tricks, but about returning to something timeless and profoundly authentic within yourself? This is where our journey begins, not with a set of pickup lines, but with an ancient philosophy that has guided leaders, thinkers, and everyday people for over 2,000 years, Stoicism. It's a path that moves beyond surface-level charm and directly addresses the core of who you are, offering a way to build a character so solid and a presence so genuine that you become undeniably attractive by simply being the most grounded version of yourself. We are about to delve into 25 Stoic exercises specifically designed to forge that exact kind of man. This is not a shortcut or a gimmick. This is about the hard, rewarding work of self-mastery. It's about cultivating a resilience that doesn't waver in the face of rejection, a virtue that guides your actions even when no one is watching, and a confidence that comes from knowing your own worth, not from seeking external validation. The Stoics believed that the highest form of success is a life lived with character and purpose, and when you begin to embody those principles, something remarkable happens. You stop trying to impress and you start to simply be impressive. Your communication becomes clearer, your intentions become purer, and your interactions become more meaningful because they are rooted in a quiet self-assurance that is impossible to fake. Imagine approaching every social situation, every date, every conversation with the unshakable knowledge that you are enough, just as you are. That is the gift Stoicism offers. It's a toolkit for the modern man who is tired of the games and ready to build a foundation of inner strength that transforms not just his dating life, but his entire experience of the world. Over the course of this video, we will walk through each of these 25 exercises, breaking down how ancient wisdom can be applied to the very modern challenge of forming genuine, powerful connections. You will learn how to reframe your mindset, manage your emotions, and present your most authentic self to the world in a way that is naturally compelling. So, if you're ready to move beyond performance and step into a version of yourself that is truly magnetic, then you are in the right place. Let's begin this transformative exploration together. Our first exercise invites you to begin your day with a powerful mental preparation known as premeditatio malorum, which translates to the premeditation of evils. Now, before you dismiss this as a gloomy practice, understand its true purpose is not to fill you with dread but to arm you with unshakable composure. The idea is simple yet profound. Instead of hoping your day goes perfectly, you actively and calmly consider the specific challenges that could arise. Picture this: you're getting ready for an evening date. Rather than just envisioning a flawless, smooth conversation, you take a few minutes in the morning to consider what might actually happen. What if there's an awkward silence? What if she needs to cancel last minute? What if the conversation takes an unexpected turn? By mentally walking through these possibilities, you are not inviting them to happen. You are vaccinating your mind against the shock and disappointment if they do. This practice was a cornerstone for Roman emperors and Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, who famously wrote in his personal journal, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." He wasn't being cynical, he was setting his expectations realistically so that nothing could catch him off guard. Apply this to your own interactions. Imagine you've planned a wonderful dinner and your date seems distracted, checking her phone. Without this mental preparation, that small action might trigger insecurity, leading you to become needy or annoyed, effectively sabotaging the connection. But if you have already contemplated this scenario, your internal response is entirely different. You remain calm, perhaps even lightly acknowledging it with a sense of humor, demonstrating that your emotional state is not dependent on her every action. That is the epitome of self-possession. The attractiveness of this trait cannot be overstated. When a woman sees that you are not easily rattled by life's minor inconveniences or social hiccups, she perceives a man of substance. She feels a profound sense of safety and comfort, not because you are pretending everything is fine, but because you have a deep-seated capacity to handle things when they are not. This practiced equanimity communicates that you are a reliable rock in a chaotic world. So tomorrow morning, before you start your day, invest just 5 minutes in this exercise. Sit quietly and visualize a specific social interaction. See it unfolding in a challenging way, and then watch yourself in that mental movie responding not with frustration or anxiety, but with patience, understanding, and unwavering virtue. You are building a resilience that ensures no external event can dictate your inner peace, and that inner peace is precisely what makes you stand out. Let's translate that philosophical concept into a tangible dating scenario. Think about a specific woman you're planning to ask out or a date you have scheduled. Your 5-minute mental rehearsal could go like this. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and take a few deep breaths. First, vividly picture yourself sending that text to ask her out. Now, imagine the specific notification that she has left you on read for a full day without a reply. Feel that initial pang of disappointment or anxiety in your gut. But instead of letting it spiral, you watch yourself in this mental movie. You see yourself putting the phone down, perhaps letting out a small sigh, and then turning your attention fully to a project you're passionate about. You feel no resentment, no frantic follow-up messages, just a quiet acceptance that her response, or lack thereof, is her business, not yours, and it does not diminish your value. Now shift the scene. You're on the date itself, and you ask her a question about her work. She gives a one-word answer and doesn't reciprocate, creating that dreaded, awkward silence. In your mind's eye, observe the discomfort arise and then watch yourself navigate it. You don't fumble or try to desperately fill the silence with chatter. You simply sit with it for a moment, comfortable in the quiet, and then smoothly transition the conversation to a different, more open-ended topic, all while maintaining a relaxed posture and a calm demeanor. You are not internally panicking about her approval. You are simply sharing space with another person, accepting that not every moment will be electric. The ultimate mental rehearsal is visualizing her politely ending the date early. See yourself looking her in the eye, offering a genuine smile and saying, "I understand, thanks for letting me know. I had a nice time regardless." Then you picture yourself walking away, your head held high, your evening not ruined but simply redirected. This deliberate practice is the ultimate antidote to neediness because it systematically dismantles outcome dependence. When you have already peacefully accepted the possibility of rejection or discomfort in your mind, you walk into the actual interaction with a profound sense of freedom. You are no longer there to extract a specific result, a second date, a phone number, her constant validation. You are there to genuinely connect with another human being and to express your authentic self. The pressure to perform, to say all the right things, completely evaporates. This is when your true personality can finally emerge, unobscured by anxiety. You become more playful, more curious, and more present because your emotional well-being isn't on the line. You are engaging from a place of abundance, not scarcity. A woman intuitively senses this shift. She interacts with a man whose sense of self isn't hanging in the balance of her every word and gesture. This communicates a level of self-assurance that is incredibly rare and deeply attractive. It tells her that you are a complete person on your own, that you seek a partner, not a purpose. Your calm presence allows her to also relax and be her genuine self, creating the potential for a far more meaningful and authentic connection than any scripted performance ever could. Building directly on that foundation of mental preparation, we now turn to the other bookend of the Stoic day, a practice just as crucial for your growth. If the morning is for building resilience against the future, the evening is for mining wisdom from the past. This is our second exercise, the evening review, a quiet and honest audit of your day. Far from being an exercise in self-criticism or dwelling on mistakes, this is a structured process of extracting valuable lessons from your own lived experience. The goal is simple yet transformative, to ensure that tomorrow you are a slightly wiser, more virtuous version of the man you are today. Find a quiet 10 minutes before you sleep. This isn't about scrolling through your phone one last time. It's about turning your attention inward. Start by replaying the key moments of your day, but with a specific focus on your social interactions and conversations, especially those with women. The Stoics weren't interested in vague feelings of how things went. They demanded precise, philosophical inquiry. So, pose these 3 powerful questions to yourself, not with judgment, but with the calm curiosity of a scientist studying his own behavior. First, did I act with integrity? This cuts to the core of your character. Did your words match your intentions? For example, did you agree with an opinion you didn't actually share just to seem agreeable? Did you exaggerate a story about your career to appear more successful? Every time you sacrifice a sliver of your integrity for a moment of social approval, you quietly erode the very self-respect that true confidence is built upon. The second question is perhaps the most revealing. Was I driven by virtue or by a desire for approval? This gets to the hidden motivation behind your actions. Let's say you paid for a date's dinner. On the surface, that's a generous act. But what was the engine behind it? Was it a genuine expression of kindness and provision, a virtue the Stoics called liberalitas, or was it a transactional hope, a quiet expectation that this gesture would earn you her affection or guarantee a second date? The action looks identical to an outside observer, but the internal reality is worlds apart. One comes from a place of abundance and principle, the other from a place of scarcity and neediness. A woman's intuition is remarkably adept at sensing this difference. The man who acts from virtue carries a quiet, unshakable certainty, while the man acting for approval gives off a subtle energy of seeking validation. Now apply the third question. Did I maintain my composure? Think back to any moment of slight friction or unexpected discomfort. When she mentioned an ex in conversation, did you feel a flash of jealousy that tightened your expression? When a joke fell flat, did you become self-conscious and start talking too fast to overcompensate? Composure isn't about being a stoic robot with no feelings. It's about being the master of your reactions instead of their servant. It's the difference between feeling a pang of insecurity and allowing that pang to dictate your next words. This review allows you to pinpoint exactly where your internal anchor slipped, so you can secure it more firmly next time. You are essentially collecting data on your own emotional triggers, turning every social interaction, even the awkward ones, into a training ground for greater self-mastery. The profound attractiveness of this habit lies in what it represents. A man who regularly holds himself accountable in the privacy of his own mind is a man who takes responsibility for his own evolution. He isn't blaming a bad date on her being hard to talk to or on bad luck. He looks inward and asks, how could my communication have been clearer? Where did I get defensive? When did I seek approval instead of offering genuine connection? This is the antithesis of entitlement. It demonstrates a deep level of maturity and self-awareness that is incredibly compelling. Women are naturally drawn to men who are on a purposeful journey of growth, men who are actively building their character rather than simply coasting through life. It shows that you are a safe investment of emotional energy because you are committed to being a better partner, a better man, not by her demand but by your own design. This nightly ritual of self-examination solidifies the day's lessons, ensuring that your growth is not accidental but intentional and continuous. To make this evening review truly effective, let's give it a practical structure, a simple, repeatable template you can use in a notebook or a notes app. The goal isn't to write an essay, but to create a concise, powerful feedback loop. Here's a straightforward format to follow after any significant social interaction or date. First, write down one specific thing you did well. This is crucial. It's not about empty praise, it's about reinforcing effective behavior. For example, I did well at maintaining strong eye contact when she was telling that story about her family. Or, I managed to gracefully steer the conversation back when it veered into a topic I wasn't comfortable discussing. Acknowledging these small victories builds genuine confidence from a place of evidence, not just hope. Then, with the same calm objectivity, identify one specific area for improvement. The key here is to frame it not as a failure but as a learning point. Instead of writing, "I was too nervous," which is vague and self-critical, you would write something like, "I noticed I interrupted her once when she was making a point. Next time, I will focus on listening fully until she has finished her thought." Or, "When we disagreed on a movie, I became slightly defensive. My opportunity for growth is to remain curious and ask more questions about her perspective instead of just stating my own." This shifts the entire dynamic from one of self-judgment to one of strategic self-development. You are no longer a man berating himself for a mistake, but a man calmly identifying a specific skill to practice for next time. This process of non-judgmental observation transforms every social engagement, even the ones that feel awkward or unsuccessful, into a goldmine of personal data. A date that doesn't lead to a second one is no longer a waste of an evening. It's a live-fire training session that provided you with invaluable information about your own communication style, your triggers, and your opportunities to become more composed and engaging. Over weeks and months, this journal becomes a personalized map of your growth. You can look back and see tangible proof that you are evolving, that the things that once flustered you no longer do, that the skills you identified as areas for improvement have become new strengths. This documented progress is a powerful antidote to the frustration that can come with the learning process. Now, consider how this practice of quiet self-reflection can subtly enrich your conversations. While you would never whip out your journal on a date and start reading from it, the mindset it cultivates naturally bleeds into your dialogue. When the topic of personal growth or hobbies comes up, you might mention, in a casual and unboastful way, that you have a habit of reflecting on your day to see how you can show up better. You don't need to frame it as "I do Stoic journaling." You might simply say, "I found it really helpful to take a few minutes at the end of the day to think about one thing I handled well in my interactions and one thing I could do a little differently next time." It's surprising what you learn about yourself. This single statement communicates a cascade of highly attractive traits. It shows you are thoughtful and introspective, a man who thinks about his own behavior. It demonstrates that you are committed to evolving, which signals ambition not just in your career but in your character. Most importantly, it reveals a profound sense of emotional maturity, the understanding that you are a work in progress and that you are actively participating in your own betterment. For a woman, this is a clear sign that you are a secure and self-aware individual. It tells her you are not fragile. You can look at your own imperfections without your ego crumbling. It suggests that in a potential relationship, you are likely to be a communicative and growth-oriented partner, someone who can handle feedback and work through challenges without deflecting blame. This practice ensures you are never the same man twice. You are always learning, always refining, always becoming more adept and grounded in your interactions. This continuous evolution makes you a genuinely interesting person because you are actively creating a life of purpose and self-mastery, and that is a story that is endlessly compelling to be a part of. Building on that foundation of daily reflection, we arrive at our third exercise, a practice that might seem counterintuitive at first but is absolutely transformative for building real-world confidence: voluntary discomfort. Think of your comfort zone not as a safe haven but as a small, fenced-in yard. The more time you spend inside that fence, the smaller your world becomes and the more intimidating the world outside appears. The Stoics, from Seneca to Musonius Rufus, actively championed the idea of periodically choosing hardship. They would intentionally wear simpler clothes, sleep on the floor, or eat plain food, not as a form of self-punishment, but as a powerful form of psychological training. It was a way to repeatedly prove to themselves, through direct experience, that they could handle difficulty and deprivation with grace. This practice systematically dismantles the fear that underpins so much of our social anxiety, the fear of feeling awkward, of being judged, of experiencing rejection. The application for the modern man is incredibly practical. You don't need to start sleeping on a hard floor, though you certainly could. The principle is to integrate small, deliberate doses of discomfort into your daily routine. This could be as simple as taking a cold shower for the final 60 seconds of your morning routine. That initial shock of cold water is a primal jolt, and your entire body and mind will scream in protest. Your job in that moment is not to fight the sensation, but to breathe deeply and accept it without complaint. You are training your nervous system to understand that discomfort is not an emergency. It is a temporary state that you have the capacity to endure and even master. Another powerful application is to practice sitting in complete silence without any distractions. For 5 minutes, just sit in a chair, no phone, no music, no television. You will likely feel a powerful itch to reach for a device, a deep-seated urge to escape the quiet and your own thoughts. By resisting that urge, you are building the mental muscle of self-containment. You are proving to yourself that you are enough, just as you are, without any external stimulation or validation. This translates directly into dating dynamics. When you're on a date and a moment of silence arises, you won't feel that frantic internal pressure to fill it. You can be comfortable in the quiet, allowing a natural pause to exist without interpreting it as a failure. That ability to be still and present is a rare and calming quality. Now, let's apply this directly to social courage. A key voluntary discomfort exercise is to start one conversation with a stranger each day. The goal is not to get a phone number or achieve any specific outcome. The goal is purely to practice the act of initiating. It could be a brief comment about the weather to the person in line with you at the coffee shop, or asking a fellow grocery shopper for a simple opinion on which type of apple is best. The content is unimportant. What matters is you willingly stepping into the mild discomfort of potential awkwardness. Every time you do this and survive, and you always will, you are rewiring your brain. You are collecting concrete evidence that the worst-case scenario you fear, that moment of slight social friction, is not only survivable but ultimately meaningless. You are systematically draining the fear out of social interaction. This cultivated resilience makes you remarkably bold in the dating world. When you see a woman you're genuinely interested in, the thought of approaching her is no longer paralyzed by the specter of rejection. Why? Because you have actively trained for this exact moment. You've put yourself in mildly uncomfortable social situations dozens of times by choice. You've already felt the physiological sensations, the slightly quicker heartbeat, the brief moment of hesitation, and you've learned to move through them rather than be frozen by them. Asking someone out becomes just another voluntary discomfort exercise, not a high-stakes test of your entire self-worth. You can do it with a calm demeanor and a genuine smile because you've already proven to yourself over and over that you can handle a no with the same composure as a yes. This is what creates that stark contrast between a man who stands out and one who blends in. Most people are in a perpetual flight from discomfort. They seek constant comfort, constant validation, and constant ease. A man who is visibly comfortable with discomfort operates from an entirely different level. He doesn't need the perfect, climate-controlled environment to be at peace. He can handle a plan changing, a joke not landing, or a conversation not going perfectly. A woman perceives this as immense strength. She sees a man who is adaptable and resilient, a man who won't fall apart when life or a relationship inevitably presents challenges. This isn't a performance of fake toughness. It is the authentic, earned composure that comes from knowing, deep in your bones, that you are capable of handling far more than you previously believed. You become a source of stability, not a source of drama, and that is a profoundly attractive anchor in an unpredictable world. Having a clear mental framework for how you want to show up in the world is one thing, but how do you translate that into split-second decisions during a conversation? This brings us to our fourth and incredibly practical exercise, defining your Stoic role models. We are not talking about creating a rigid, unattainable superhero ideal, but rather about curating a personal board of advisors for your character. The Stoics themselves were avid students of exemplars. Seneca frequently quoted the wisdom of his teacher, Attalus, and Cato the Younger was a living model of unwavering principle for an entire generation. The power of this practice lies in giving a face and a story to the abstract virtues you are trying to build. It moves the ideal from a vague concept in your mind to a tangible example you can call upon for guidance. Start by identifying 2 or 3 figures, historical or contemporary, who embody the traits you wish to cultivate. Marcus Aurelius is an obvious and profound choice. As the most powerful man in the world, he faced constant political intrigue, betrayal, the burdens of leadership, and immense personal loss. His private journal, the Meditations, is not a theoretical treatise but a real-time log of a man constantly reminding himself to be better. Study how he handled adversity. He didn't suppress his emotions, he processed them through a lens of duty and virtue. When faced with provocation, he consistently asked, "What is the impediment?" It becomes an opportunity for virtue. This is a game-changing reframe. An insult becomes a chance to practice patience. A setback becomes a test of resilience. A difficult person becomes an exercise in understanding. Now, let's make this immediately applicable to a dating scenario. Imagine you're on a date and the woman you're with makes a slightly critical comment about your choice of career or a hobby you're passionate about. The untrained, reactive mind might instantly get defensive, leading to a sharp retort or a passive-aggressive withdrawal. Both responses stem from a fragile ego-feeling attack. But in that crucial moment, you have a choice. You can pause, take a mental half-step back, and ask yourself the simple but powerful question: what would Marcus Aurelius do? You know from his writings that he would not take the comment personally. He would see it not as an attack on his worth, but as simply her opinion which she is entitled to, and which has no power to diminish him unless he allows it. He would likely respond with calm curiosity, not defensiveness. That's an interesting perspective. What makes you say that? This single question, inspired by your role model, completely de-escalates the situation, demonstrates unshakable confidence, and keeps the door open for a genuine connection. To make this guidance system even more accessible, you can build what I call a personal virtue checklist based on the core qualities of your chosen exemplars. This isn't a long, complicated document. It's a short, memorable set of principles you can review before a social interaction and even mentally reference during one. Let's say your role models are Marcus Aurelius for his composure and justice, and a modern figure like a respected grandparent for their unconditional kindness. Your checklist might have just 4 prompts. Am I listening with full attention? Am I responding, not reacting? Am I acting with kindness, not expectation? Am I maintaining my integrity? Before you walk into the cafe for your date, you take 30 seconds to run through this list, setting a clear intention. This primes your mind to operate from principle. Then, during the conversation itself, this checklist becomes your real-time navigation system. when she is telling a long story about her work and you feel the urge to jump in and talk about yourself, the internal prompt, "Am I listening with full attention?" gently corrects your course. You lean in, you make eye contact, and you truly hear her. Later, if she mentions a previous relationship in a way that triggers a flicker of insecurity, the question, "Am I responding, not reacting?" allows you to acknowledge the feeling without being controlled by it. You can respond with maturity and a lack of jealousy, which communicates immense security. This process ensures your actions are consciously chosen, not impulsively dictated by fleeting emotions. You are no longer on autopilot, buffeted by every social wind. You are the pilot, calmly and deliberately steering the interaction. The profound attractiveness of this practice is the consistency of character it produces. Women are exceptionally perceptive at detecting incongruence when a man's words don't match his actions or when his personality seems to shift from one situation to the next. A man guided by a clear, internal moral compass inspired by great exemplars presents a consistent, reliable self. He is the same calm, principled person whether on a first date, dealing with a stressful work situation, or spending time with friends. This consistency breeds trust. It tells her that the attractive, grounded man she is enjoying coffee with is not a performance. He is the real, authentic person, and he will be that same man tomorrow and next year. It projects a strength that is not domineering but deeply reassuring, the strength of a man who knows who he is, what he stands for, and is actively building a life of purpose and character. By aligning your daily actions with the highest examples of virtue, you are not just mimicking greatness, you are actively constructing it within yourself, one conscious choice at a time. Now let's move to our fifth Stoic exercise, one that expands your mental horizon beyond any single room or conversation. It's called the view from above. This is a perspective shift that might feel almost cinematic at first, but its emotional impact is remarkably grounding. The core idea is this: when you feel that familiar knot of nervousness in your stomach before a date, or when you find yourself replaying a single awkward comment in your mind for hours afterward, you consciously perform a mental zoom out. Picture yourself floating upward, leaving the building, rising above your city, until you see the entire continent, then the whole planet, a beautiful, silent blue marble hanging in the immense blackness of space. From this vantage point, your specific worry, the text message you're waiting for, the slight stumble over your words becomes what it truly is, a microscopic event in an almost infinitely vast and ancient cosmos. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, used this technique not to belittle their own lives, but to restore a sense of proportion. He would write lines to himself like, "Remember how small the theater of human life is, and most of what we say and do is not essential." He wasn't advocating for apathy. He was fighting the human tendency toward what psychologists now call catastrophizing, turning a minor social hiccup into a total personal disaster. When you immerse yourself in the view from above, you are essentially hitting the reset button on your emotional scale. The intensity of that nervous feeling, which can seem so all-consuming in the moment, is gently but firmly put in its proper place. It doesn't vanish, but it loses its power to dominate your entire consciousness. Let's anchor this in a very real scenario. You've just had a first date. You thought it went reasonably well, but it's been 2 days and you haven't heard back. The untrained mind can descend into a spiral of anxious speculation. What did I do wrong? Was it something I said? Is she already seeing someone else? Each thought tightens the knot of anxiety. This is when you actively initiate the view from above. Close your eyes and take that mental journey. See your city as a tiny cluster of lights on the edge of a continent. See the planet with its billions of other people, each with their own hopes, fears, and dating anxieties. From this cosmic perspective, the question of whether one particular person sends you a text message is stripped of its life or death urgency. It becomes one small data point in the grand, unfolding story of your life, not the definitive verdict on your worth as a man. This recalibration is the ultimate antidote to neediness and outcome dependence. When the perceived stakes of a single interaction are lowered from "this will determine my entire happiness" to "this is one experience among many," you are liberated to engage with a much more authentic and relaxed energy. You no longer enter a conversation with the hidden agenda of securing a specific result. You are free to be curious, to be playful, to be genuinely interested in the person in front of you without the heavy weight of expectation. This freedom is palpable. A woman can feel when a man is truly present with her, rather than being mentally trapped in a future he's trying to manipulate into existence. Your calm becomes a space where she, too, can relax and be herself. A man who regularly practices this perspective shift carries a unique and compelling aura. He doesn't get flustered by a delayed reply or a cancelled plan. He understands that these are the normal ebbs and flows of human interaction, not personal affronts. This isn't indifference, it's a deep-seated understanding that his sense of peace and self-worth is not contingent on any single person's actions. He is rooted in something far larger, his own character and his place in the vast tapestry of life. This makes him incredibly stable and reassuring to be around. He is the man who, when a date doesn't work out, can genuinely wish the other person well and move forward with optimism, because he knows the universe is full of infinite possibilities. He doesn't sweat the small stuff because he has a daily reminder of what truly is small, and in doing so, he becomes a very large presence indeed. Our sixth exercise invites you to engage with one of the most profound and life-altering concepts in the entire Stoic toolkit: memento mori, the remembrance that you will die. At first glance, this might sound dark or even morbid, a stark contrast to the usual self-improvement advice. But for the Stoics, this was not about cultivating a morbid fear of the end. It was the ultimate key to unlocking a vibrant, purposeful, and deeply authentic life right now. The constant, gentle awareness of your own impermanence and the impermanence of everything around you acts as a powerful filter, instantly clarifying what is trivial and what is truly essential. When you genuinely internalize that your time, your energy, and your opportunities for connection are finite and non-renewable resources, it becomes impossible to fritter them away on posturing, hesitation, or fear-based inaction. Let's translate this directly into the context of dating and connection. Imagine you're at a social gathering and you see someone across the room who captivates you. The old fear-based script might start playing in your head. What if I get rejected? What if I say the wrong thing? I'll wait for a better moment, or maybe I'll see her again another time. Memento mori cuts through that mental noise with a quiet, sobering truth. There may not be another time. This moment right here is the only one you are guaranteed. This doesn't mean you charge over with a sense of frantic desperation. It means you approach with a calm, earnest clarity. The potential for a moment of slight social awkwardness is weighed against the certainty of a lost opportunity, and the choice becomes clear. You walk over, you introduce yourself, and you engage precisely because you understand the fleeting nature of the chance. This practice fundamentally changes your communication. When you're on a date, the awareness that this conversation, like all things, is temporary sharpens your focus. You aren't distracted by your phone or mentally rehearsing your next witty remark. You are truly there, listening to the cadence of her voice, noticing the way she gestures when she's excited, fully absorbing the unique human being in front of you. You ask deeper questions because superficial small talk feels like a waste of your precious, limited time. You express genuine appreciation when you feel it, because you know that deferring honesty to some vague future is a gamble you might not win. This profound presence is something people feel viscerally. To be truly seen and heard by someone who is completely engaged is a rare and intoxicating gift. A man who lives with a conscious awareness of memento mori carries a specific and compelling energy. He is not reckless, but he is urgent in the most positive sense of the word: urgent to live, to connect, to experience life deeply. He doesn't play games or resort to manipulative tactics because he recognizes how demeaning and time-wasting those are. He is direct with his intentions and authentic in his expression because he has no time for the exhausting maintenance of a false persona. A woman interacting with this man senses that he is real. He isn't trying to sell her an image. He is offering her a genuine connection, fully aware that it might last for just one evening or for a lifetime, and he is courageous enough to be present for either outcome. This earnest, passionate approach to life is magnetic. It shows that you value substance over superficiality, depth over distraction, and authentic connection over social validation. By remembering that you will die, you are inspired to truly live, and that is a quality that makes you stand out in a world often content with just going through the motions. Our seventh exercise brings us to the absolute bedrock of Stoic practice, a principle so fundamental that it serves as the operating system for everything we've discussed so far. This is the practice of constantly differentiating between what is within your control and what is not. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, and its daily application is like a psychological superpower for navigating the complexities of social life. The division is elegantly simple, yet its implications are profound. What is entirely within your sphere of command are your own judgments, your intentions, your desires and aversions, and the actions you choose to take. Everything else, and this is the crucial part, falls outside of it. This includes the actions of other people, the opinions they form, the outcomes of your endeavors, and most pointedly for our discussion, whether or not someone is attracted to you or accepts your invitation. The power of this exercise lies not in understanding it intellectually, but in internalizing it as a reflexive habit. Throughout your day, especially in social contexts, you begin to mentally label situations. You're about to send a text asking someone out. The action of crafting a respectful, genuine message is 100% within your control. Hitting send is within your control. But the moment that message leaves your phone, it enters the realm of the external. Her response, the timing of it, the content of it, all of that is now entirely outside your jurisdiction. By consciously making this distinction, you perform a subtle but powerful mental shift. You transfer your focus and your emotional investment from the outcome, which you cannot command, to the quality of your own action, which you absolutely can. You are no longer responsible for securing a yes. You are only responsible for making a courteous and courageous ask. This habit systematically dismantles the anxiety that surrounds rejection. When you truly grasp that another person's feelings or choices are not yours to manage, a massive weight is lifted from your shoulders. The fear of being rejected loses its sting because you stop interpreting it as a verdict on your worth. It is simply a reflection of another person's preferences, circumstances, or mood in that particular moment, factors you have zero control over. This liberates you to approach social interactions with a completely different energy. You are freed from the desperate need for a specific result. Your goal shifts from making her like me to expressing my genuine interest in a kind and engaging manner. The focus is entirely on your own performance of virtue, on being honest, brave, and present. Let's paint a clear picture of how this looks in practice. Imagine you're on a date and you decide to be vulnerable, sharing a personal aspiration you're genuinely passionate about. The Stoic application unfolds in two distinct layers. Your internal work is to ensure your action is virtuous. You are sharing something true about yourself with sincerity and without the hidden agenda of seeking applause. That is your entire job. Her reaction, however, is her business. If she lights up, engages deeply, and seems impressed, that's wonderful, but it's an external addition, a preferred outcome. If she seems indifferent or changes the subject, that is also an external event. Because you have mentally prepared for this dichotomy, your equilibrium isn't shattered. You don't frantically backtrack or try to win back her interest. You simply note her response, accept it as data about her compatibility with you, and calmly continue being the same authentic, grounded person you were moments before. A man who has mastered this distinction radiates a relaxed, confident energy that is impossible to ignore and incredibly compelling. He is not desperate because his sense of self is not tied to the approval he receives in any given moment. He can be fully engaged and genuinely attentive without that subtle undercurrent of neediness that so often sabotages connection. A woman senses this on an intuitive level. She interacts with a man who is solid in himself, a man who is offering his company rather than pleading for her validation. This creates a space of psychological safety where she, too, can be authentic without feeling the pressure to manage his ego or provide constant reassurance. You become a source of stability rather than a source of demand. This profound self-security, born from the simple act of focusing only on what you can control, is perhaps the most attractive trait a man can cultivate, transforming every social interaction from a test of your worth into an opportunity to express your character. Now we move to our 8th exercise, which takes the internal clarity you've been building and channels it into one of the most powerful and practical social skills you can develop, the art of active listening and true presence. Think about the last time you were in a conversation where you could genuinely feel that the other person was completely there with you, not glancing at their phone, not waiting for their turn to talk, but fully absorbed in what you were saying. That feeling is rare and it's magnetic. This practice is about creating that exact feeling for others, and in doing so, transforming the quality of your connections from transactional exchanges to meaningful engagements. It's an exercise in directing your focus to what is entirely within your control, your own attention and the quality of your engagement, while letting go of the anxiety about how you are being perceived. Active listening is far more than just hearing words. It is a deliberate and generous act of focusing your entire consciousness on the person speaking. The first step is to consciously silence the internal commentator in your head. You know that voice, the one that is already crafting a witty reply, worrying if your posture looks confident or judging the story she's telling. When that voice is running the show, you are only partially in the conversation. The rest of you is trapped in a private theater of self-evaluation. The Stoic shift here is to recognize that your internal narrative is within your control and you can choose to redirect it. Your job in that moment is not to be impressive, but to be impressed, to be truly curious about the world from her perspective. This moves you from a self-centered frame where you are the star of the show to an other-centered frame where you become a skilled and appreciative audience. Your body language is the most immediate signal of this internal shift. Maintain soft, steady eye contact that shows you are engaged without being an intense stare. Nod occasionally to show you are following along, and resist the urge to fidget or glance around the room. These physical cues are within your control and they communicate a quiet confidence. You are not nervously scanning for approval because you are too focused on understanding her. Then weave in thoughtful follow-up questions. This is where listening becomes an active exploration. Instead of responding to her story about a difficult work project with a story of your own, you delve deeper. Ask a question like, what was the most frustrating part of that situation for you? Or, that sounds challenging. What did you learn about yourself in handling it? These questions demonstrate that you are not just waiting for a pause, but that you are truly processing the emotional and intellectual content of what she shared. Consider a specific scenario. You're on a date and she's describing her passion for painting. The mediocre listener might simply say, "That's cool," and then pivot to talking about his own hobby of going to the gym. The active listener, grounded in Stoic principle, does something entirely different. He notices the light in her eyes when she talks about color and composition. He asks, when you're in the middle of a painting and you hit a point where it doesn't feel right, what's going through your mind? How do you work through that creative block? This question does several remarkable things at once. It shows you see her as a complex, thoughtful individual with an inner world worth exploring. It validates her passion, making her feel interesting and valued. And perhaps most importantly, it shifts the dynamic completely. You are no longer two people performing for each other's approval. You are two people sharing a genuine, exploratory conversation. The attractiveness of this quality is profound and multi-layered. On one level, making someone feel truly heard is a form of immense flattery. It is a silent communication that says, what you are saying matters and who you are is fascinating. On a deeper level, your ability to be fully present demonstrates a formidable level of self-security. A man who is not trapped in his own head worrying about his next line is a man who is comfortable with silence, comfortable with curiosity, and comfortable in his own skin. This projects a confidence that is quiet and assured, not loud and boastful. It tells her that you are secure enough to not need the spotlight at every moment, that you are genuinely interested in who she is as a person. This creates a foundation for trust and intimacy that no amount of rehearsed charm can ever build. By mastering this one exercise, you stop trying to be the most interesting person in the room and instead become the most interested, and that is a shift that will make you utterly memorable. Following the profound shift from trying to control outcomes to focusing on your own virtuous actions, we arrive at a practice that might be the ultimate expression of Stoic freedom, amor fati, which translates to a love of one's fate. This is not a passive resignation or a suggestion to simply grit your teeth and endure life's difficulties. It is an active, enthusiastic embrace of everything that happens to you, the good, the bad, the awkward, and the outright disappointing, as not just something to be tolerated, but as the essential raw material for your growth and the precise path you are meant to walk. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by Stoic thought, captured this spirit perfectly when he wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." This is the radical acceptance that every experience, without exception, is woven into the fabric of who you are becoming. Let's apply this directly to the emotional roller coaster of dating. The most common and painful experience is rejection. The standard, untrained reaction is to see a no as a personal failure, a verdict on your attractiveness, your wit, or your worth. This interpretation naturally breeds bitterness, resentment, and a protective cynicism that walls you off from future connection. Amor fati dismantles this entire painful narrative. It invites you to reframe that exact same no not as a door slamming in your face, but as a necessary redirection. Perhaps that connection wasn't right for you, and by ending now, it saves both of you from a much more painful and drawn-out incompatibility later. Perhaps it taught you a specific lesson about your own communication style or revealed a hidden insecurity you now have the opportunity to address. When you learn to love this outcome, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start seeing yourself as an active participant in your own evolution. Consider the sting of an awkward moment on a date, a joke that falls completely flat, a moment where you spill your drink, or a conversation that grinds to a painful halt. In the moment, it feels excruciating, a crack in the perfect image you hope to project. With an amor fati mindset, you can learn to almost welcome these moments. Why? Because they are the ultimate test and training ground for your authenticity. They strip away any facade of smoothness and force the real you to show up and handle the situation. How you navigate that awkwardness, whether you can laugh at yourself, acknowledge the moment with humility, and gently steer forward, reveals far more about your character than any flawlessly executed, smooth-talking performance ever could. A woman watches how you handle small failures. A man who can trip, smile, and say, "Well, that was graceful," with genuine good humor demonstrates a self-security that is infinitely more attractive than a man who never stumbles because his perfection feels distant and unrelatable. This practice is the definitive cure for neediness. Neediness springs from a desperate attachment to a single, preferred outcome. The belief that your happiness depends on this one person saying yes, or this one date leading to a relationship. When you actively love your fate, you release that desperate grip. You become open to all possibilities. If she says yes, wonderful, that is the fate to be loved. If she says no, equally wonderful, that too is the fate to be loved, for it frees you to meet someone more aligned and build your resilience. This doesn't mean you become an unfeeling robot. You can still feel a twinge of disappointment. But that feeling is transient because it is immediately followed by a deeper, more powerful current of trust in the unfolding process of your life. You part ways with genuine grace and well-wishing because you understand that her no is not a rejection of your core self, but simply part of the path that leads you to where you need to be. A man who embodies amor fati carries a specific and powerful aura. He is not a naive optimist who pretends everything is always fine. He is a grounded realist who has made peace with the inherent unpredictability of life. He exudes a contagious positivity because his happiness is not conditional on external events going his way. Setbacks don't defeat him, they intrigue him. He meets obstacles with a kind of curious excitement, thinking, this is the challenge the universe has provided for me today. Let's see what I can learn from it. This resilience is magnetic. It tells a woman that this is a man who will not fall apart when life gets hard, when a job is lost, or when a relationship hits a rough patch. He is a source of strength and stability because he is in a collaborative relationship with reality itself, not a constant battle against it. By loving your fate, including every missed connection and every learning experience, you demonstrate a profound trust in your own journey, and that unwavering faith in yourself is the most compelling invitation for someone to join you on the path. This pursuit of inner stability leads us directly to our 10th exercise, which is about cultivating a profound indifference to the opinions of others, both the praise and the blame that can so easily send our emotions on a roller coaster. The Stoic ideal here is not to become a cold, unfeeling statue, but to build a self-worth so robust that it is no longer a commodity traded on the open market of social approval. Your value, according to the Stoics, is determined by the quality of your character and the integrity of your actions, period. Everything else, the compliment from a beautiful woman, the sharp critique from a colleague, the silent judgment of a stranger, is an external event, a piece of data that may or may not be useful, but which holds no inherent power to define you. Think of your self-esteem as a house. If it's built on the flimsy foundation of other people's compliments, it's like a house of cards. A single gust of criticism can blow the whole thing down. But if it's built on the solid bedrock of your own virtuous actions, on knowing you acted with courage, justice, and self-discipline, then it becomes a fortress. The winds of opinion may howl outside, but inside you remain calm and undisturbed. This is the core of emotional independence. When a woman you're deeply interested in pays you a genuine compliment, you receive it with a simple, heartfelt "thank you, I appreciate that," without letting it send you into a giddy, inflated state. You enjoy the moment, but you don't need it to feel good about yourself. Your internal state remains steady because it's not dependent on that external validation to exist. Now consider the flip side, which is often the real test. You put yourself out there, you ask for a second date, and you receive a polite but firm no, or perhaps you get no reply at all. The untrained mind immediately spirals into a story of personal inadequacy. I'm not handsome enough, I'm not interesting enough, I said the wrong thing. This is the sound of your self-worth being held hostage by an external outcome. The man practicing Stoic indifference approaches this scenario with a completely different internal dialogue. He acknowledges the disappointment, but then he turns inward. He asks the only question that truly matters: did I act with virtue in my interactions? If the answer is yes, if he was respectful, authentic, and courageous in expressing his interest, then the outcome is irrelevant to his self-assessment. Her decision is her business, a reflection of her own preferences and path, and it cannot subtract from the value of his own virtuous action. Let's put this into a practical social context. Imagine you're at a party and you tell a story to a small group. One woman in the group laughs and seems genuinely engaged, while another looks away, seeming uninterested. The man desperate for approval will fixate on the disinterested woman. His energy will deflate, he'll start second-guessing his story, and he'll try to win her over, coming across as needy and insecure. The Stoic man, however, notices both reactions with equal detachment. He appreciates the engagement of the one woman but doesn't let it inflate him. He notes the disinterest of the other but doesn't let it devastate him. He understands that their reactions are a complex mix of their own moods, biases, and personalities, most of which are entirely unknown to him. He remains the same calm, engaging person throughout because his performance is not being graded by their momentary expressions. This cultivated indifference is not aloofness, it is the highest form of self-possession. It communicates to everyone around you, and especially to women you're romantically interested in, that you are a complete and self-validated individual. You are not there to extract praise or avoid criticism. You are there to connect, to share, and to express yourself authentically. This is profoundly attractive because it creates a relationship dynamic free from manipulation and neediness. A woman senses that your affection and attention are given freely, not as a transaction in exchange for her constant validation. She feels she can be herself. She can offer praise or express disagreement without worrying that she will trigger a dramatic emotional swing in you. Your stability becomes a safe harbor. You present as a man who knows his own worth, and that is a foundation for trust that is far more compelling than any amount of calculated charm or desperate people-pleasing ever could be. This practice, known as the discipline of assent, is essentially the art of creating a sacred space between a stimulus and your response. In that brief, powerful gap, you reclaim your sovereignty over your own mind. An event occurs, perhaps she takes a long time to reply to your message, or she makes an offhand comment about your taste in music that could be interpreted as a slight. Your primitive, reactive brain immediately serves up a hot, instantaneous judgment. It screams, she's ignoring you, she's not interested, or she's criticizing you. Defend yourself. The discipline of assent is the trained, conscious part of your mind that catches that initial judgment before it can hijack your entire emotional state and dictate your actions. It calmly intervenes and asks the most liberating questions you can ever pose to yourself. Is this interpretation absolutely true? Is this event inherently good or bad? Or am I assigning that label based on my own fears and insecurities? Let's make this intensely practical. You're on a third date and things have been going wonderfully. You're sharing a meal and she casually mentions that her ex-boyfriend used to love this restaurant. The untrained mind, fueled by insecurity and a fragile ego, might instantly interpret this as a comparison or a sign that she's not over her past relationship. This initial impression, if left unchallenged, can trigger a cascade of negative emotions: jealousy, insecurity, resentment. You might feel your body tense up, your smile become forced. You might withdraw emotionally, become cold, or even make a passive-aggressive remark like, "Oh, so you have a lot of memories here with him then." This reactive behavior, born from an unchallenged first impression, can single-handedly poison the atmosphere and derail the entire evening. Now let's replay that exact same scenario with the discipline of assent applied. She says, "My ex-boyfriend used to love this restaurant." The comment lands. You feel that familiar, subtle pang of something unpleasant in your gut. That's the initial impression. But instead of letting that feeling instantly become a reaction, you insert a pause. It might only last for 2 seconds internally, but it's a lifetime for your higher reasoning. In that mental space, you challenge the impression. You ask yourself, is this comment inherently an attack or a rejection? The rational answer is a clear no. It is simply a statement of fact, a neutral piece of information about her past. Perhaps she mentioned it because she feels comfortable enough with you to reference her history, which is actually a sign of growing intimacy. Maybe it was a completely innocent, irrelevant detail. By questioning your initial, fear-based interpretation, you drain it of its emotional power. The pang of insecurity subsides because you have rationally determined it was based on a false premise. Having safely navigated that internal hurdle, you are now free to choose a response that is mature, secure, and actually strengthens the connection. Instead of withdrawing, you maintain your open, relaxed body language. Instead of a passive-aggressive jab, you respond with genuine curiosity and a complete lack of jealousy. You could smile and say, "Oh, it's a great spot. What's the best dish you've had here?" Or even lightly acknowledge the comment without giving it weight. "Well, he had good taste in food, at least." This response communicates volumes. It tells her that you are so secure in yourself that a mention of a past relationship doesn't threaten you in the slightest. You demonstrate emotional intelligence by not overreacting to a trivial comment. You show that you are in control of your emotions, not the other way around. This display of self-mastery is far more impressive and attractive than any display of wealth or status could ever be. The beauty of this discipline is that it makes you a fair and thoughtful partner long before a partnership is even formally established. Imagine a future disagreement. A man who has practiced pausing before reacting doesn't fire back with hurtful words in the heat of the moment. He doesn't storm out or give the silent treatment. He has trained himself to feel the surge of emotion, create that space, and then respond from a place of principle rather than pettiness. He can say, "I need a moment to process that," and return to the conversation with a clear head and a constructive attitude. This ability is the cornerstone of emotional maturity. A woman recognizes this on a deep, intuitive level. She sees a man who can handle difficult emotions without fracturing, a man who can disagree without being disagreeable. This fosters a profound sense of safety and respect because she knows that with you, conflicts will be navigated with wisdom and care, not with childish outbursts. The discipline of assent is the ultimate tool for ensuring your actions are always a reflection of your character, not a casualty of your temporary emotions. Having built that foundation of emotional self-mastery, we now turn to an exercise that actively rewires your entire perspective on your social life, transforming it from a quest to acquire something missing into a celebration of the richness that already exists. This is our 12th practice, cultivating a deep and active gratitude for the present moment. In the context of dating, it's incredibly easy to fall into a mindset of scarcity, where your attention becomes laser-focused on the one thing you feel you don't have, a specific partner or relationship. This perceived lack can cast a shadow over everything else, creating a subtle but palpable energy of neediness and desperation that is instinctively sensed by others. Gratitude is the Stoic antidote to this. It is the deliberate and powerful act of shifting your focus from what is absent to the profound abundance that is already present in your life. The Stoics viewed gratitude not as a passive feeling, but as an active discipline, a form of mental training to recognize the good that is perpetually available to you. Marcus Aurelius began his meditations by meticulously listing the specific people he was grateful for and the virtues they taught him. He wasn't just counting blessings, he was anchoring his mind in a reality of provision and support, which in turn fortified him against the challenges of his day. For you, this means making it a daily habit to consciously acknowledge and feel genuine appreciation for the people and opportunities currently in your life. This includes your friends, your family, your health, your capacity to learn and grow, and yes, even the very chance to meet new people and form connections, however they may unfold. When you start your day by genuinely feeling thankful for the ability to have a conversation, to share a laugh, or to simply be in the presence of another human being, you approach social interactions from a completely different place. Let's make this concrete with the powerful tool of a dating gratitude journal. This isn't a diary about your crushes or a log of rejections. It's a dedicated space, perhaps just a few lines each evening, where you specifically note down the positive interactions and personal growth moments related to your social life. The entries don't need to be grand. They can be as simple as, "I'm grateful for the brief, friendly chat with the barrister this morning. It reminded me that small connections are everywhere." Or, "I'm grateful for the clarity I felt after that last date didn't work out. It helped me understand what I'm truly looking for." Another entry could be, "I'm grateful for the courage I found to start a conversation with someone new at the bookstore today, even if it didn't lead to anything more." The subject of your gratitude isn't always the outcome. Very often, it's the strength you discovered within yourself during the process. The transformative power of this practice lies in its ability to systematically build what psychologists call an abundance mindset. When you consistently collect evidence of positive interactions, personal courage, and valuable lessons, your brain stops interpreting every social event through a lens of deficit. A date that doesn't lead to a second one is no longer a solitary date, a point of failure. It's simply one experience among many that you are grateful for because it contributed to your growth and understanding. This reframe is utterly liberating. You stop seeing every new person you meet as a potential solution to your loneliness and start seeing them as a unique individual with whom you have the privilege of sharing a moment in time. This removes the immense, unspoken pressure from both of you. A man who practices this kind of gratitude carries a specific and magnetic energy. He is not a positive thinker in a naive, Pollyanna-ish sense. He is a man who has trained himself to find the value and the lesson in every single experience. This creates a warm, inviting, and genuinely content aura. When you are truly grateful for your life as it is, you are not trying to use another person to fill a void. You are inviting them to share in the abundance you already experience. This is profoundly attractive because it communicates that you are a whole person seeking a partnership, not a half person seeking completion. Your conversations become lighter, more playful, and more authentic because you are not desperately mining them for validation. You are simply enjoying the exchange. A woman feels this lack of agenda, and it allows her to relax and be her true self, fostering the kind of genuine connection that is the ultimate goal. By making gratitude a daily discipline, you are not just becoming a more positive man. You are becoming a man whose very presence feels like a gift. This practice of examining our deepest motivations brings us to our 13th exercise, which is about streamlining the very engines of our motivation and fear. This is the work of simplifying your desires and your aversions. The Stoics made a critical distinction here. A desire aligned with nature and virtue is for things like acting with courage, seeking wisdom, and contributing to the well-being of others. These are desires for actions and states of character that are entirely within your own power to achieve. An unhealthy, turbulent desire, however, is a craving for a specific external outcome, like the intense need for a particular woman to like you, or for a first date to guarantee a long-term relationship. These desires are like setting an internal trap for yourself because their fulfillment lies outside your control, placing your happiness in the hands of fate and other people. The same goes for aversions. It is natural to prefer companionship over solitude, but a deep, frantic aversion to being alone, to experiencing even a moment of silence with yourself, is a source of immense neediness and anxiety. The practical application is a regular, honest audit of your own heart and mind. You must become a detective of your own intentions. Before you send that text or during that quiet moment of reflection in the evening, ask yourself a pointed question about your desire. For instance, am I wanting to send this flirty message because it is a genuine, playful expression of my interest, which is a virtuous action I control? Or is it because I am feeling insecure and I'm desperately seeking a hit of validation from her reply, an outcome I do not control? The first desire is clean, simple, and rooted in your own capacity to act. The second is complex, messy, and hands the reins of your emotional state over to someone else. When you identify a desire that is rooted in ego and insecurity, the Stoic practice is to consciously loosen your grip on it. You don't suppress the feeling, but you see it for what it is, a turbulent weather pattern in your mind, and you choose not to let it dictate your actions. You might still send the message, but you do it from a different, freer place, having released the frantic attachment to how it will be received. This decluttering of your internal world has a profound effect, freeing up vast reserves of mental and emotional energy that were previously wasted on scheming, worrying, and over-analyzing. Think of your mind as a browser with too many tabs open. Each unhealthy desire, I hope she texts back, I need this date to go perfectly. I can't stand the thought of another Friday night alone, is another tab consuming processing power and draining your battery. When you systematically close these tabs by aligning your desires with what you can actually control, your mental computer runs faster, cooler, and more efficiently. All that energy once spent on anxiety is now available for genuine connection. You can listen more attentively, you can be more creatively playful, and you can be more fully present in the moment because you are no longer mentally time traveling into a future you're trying to manipulate. A man who has done this work presents a remarkably calm and focused presence. His desires are simple and virtuous: to be honest, to be kind, to be courageous, and to enjoy the company of the person in front of him. There is no hidden agenda, no subtle pressure, no scanning for signs of approval. This purity of intention is something people feel immediately. It is deeply reassuring. A woman interacting with this man senses that he is not trying to get something from her. He is simply sharing himself with her. He is authentic because he is not constructing a persona designed to win her affection. He is secure enough to be exactly who he is, and he is engaging with her to discover who she is, not to confirm a fantasy he has already built in his head. This creates a space for a real, unpredictable, and wonderfully human connection to unfold, one that is based on mutual discovery rather than transactional need. This brings us to our 14th exercise, a practice that moves beyond the internal landscape and into the tangible world of action, focusing on the cultivation of selfless virtue through acts of kindness performed without any expectation of return. In the Stoic framework, this is a direct exercise in the virtue of justice, understood in its broadest sense as our duty to contribute to the common good and treat our fellow human beings with fairness and benevolence. The crucial distinction here, and where the real character building occurs, is in the purity of your motive. The goal is not to be seen as a nice guy or to accumulate good karma points that you hope will be cashed in for romantic success. The goal is to perform the act itself because it is the right and virtuous thing to do, and then to release it completely without attachment to outcome, recognition, or gratitude. Imagine the subtle but powerful difference between two men who both buy a coffee for a homeless person. The first man does it, shares the story on social media, and feels a warm glow of pride, his action subtly tied to the external validation of likes and comments. The second man simply does it, walks away, and never thinks of it again, his reward being the knowledge that he acted in accordance with his principles in that moment. The first action, while still beneficial, is ultimately a transaction with the ego. The second is a pure expression of character. For your practice, start with small, manageable, and ideally anonymous actions. This could be leaving a genuinely positive and detailed review for a small business you appreciate, helping a colleague complete a tedious task without mentioning it to anyone, or anonymously covering the cost of a meal for someone in need. The anonymity is a powerful tool because it removes even the possibility of receiving credit, forcing the virtue to be its own reward. Now, let's translate this directly into the dynamics of dating and connection. When a man has cultivated a genuine habit of selfless kindness, it ceases to be a behavior he turns on and off. It becomes an ingrained part of his personality, a default setting that naturally expresses itself in his interactions with everyone, including women he's romantically interested in. Consider how this plays out on a date. A man who is practicing this might, without any fanfare, gently switch seats with his date to ensure she's not in a draft, or he might listen intently to a story about her difficult day and offer a simple, sincere word of validation like, "That sounds incredibly tough. You handled it with a lot of grace," with no expectation that this comment will earn him points. The kindness is offered freely as a natural extension of his attention and empathy, not as a strategic move in a game. This stands in stark contrast to the transactional kindness that is so common and so easily detected. This is the behavior of a man who holds a door open and then seems to expect a reward, who pays for dinner and then subtly conveys that he is owed something in return. A woman's intuition is exquisitely calibrated to sense this underlying contract. It feels manipulative and creates a subtle pressure that undermines genuine connection. The man whose kindness is rooted in selfless virtue, however, creates an atmosphere of complete psychological safety. There are no strings attached. His generosity of spirit is given without conditions, which communicates that he is a secure and abundant individual. He is not giving to get, he is giving because it is who he is. The profound attractiveness of this trait is that it reveals a heart of genuine goodness, a quality that is increasingly rare and deeply comforting. In a world often focused on self-interest and personal gain, a man who is consistently, quietly kind demonstrates a strength that is not based on dominance or power, but on a deep-seated compassion and respect for others. This makes him a safe harbor. A woman senses that this is a man who will be considerate of her feelings, who will be a true partner in times of difficulty, and whose support will be unconditional. It shows emotional maturity and a capacity for true intimacy, because kindness is the practical language of love and respect. By making these small, selfless acts a regular discipline, you are not just performing good deeds, you are actively sculpting a character of immense depth and appeal, becoming a man whose very presence feels like a gift. Now, let's connect the philosophy of the mind with the discipline of the body for our 15th exercise. Think of your physical form not just as a shell you inhabit, but as the primary instrument through which you express your Stoic will. This practice is about engaging in consistent physical challenges, whether it's running, lifting weights, practicing martial arts, or any demanding sport, with a specific intention. You are not there merely to build muscle or improve your cardio. You are using the raw, tangible struggle of the body as a direct training ground for the mind. Every time you push through the burning fatigue in your lungs on that final mile, or you force yourself to complete one more repetition when every muscle fiber is screaming to quit, you are having a live conversation with your own limitations. You are proving to yourself in the most visceral way possible that you can endure discomfort and choose to persevere. This cultivated ability to withstand physical strain builds a formidable mental callus that directly inoculates you against the softer, more psychological pains of social life, like the sting of rejection or the anxiety of uncertainty. Consider the powerful parallel between a difficult workout and a challenging social situation. When you're in the middle of a grueling set at the gym, the immediate primal desire is to rack the weights to stop the pain. In that exact moment, you have a choice to listen to the immediate craving for comfort or to access a deeper part of your will and push forward. This is a microcosm of what happens when you feel the nervous urge to avoid approaching someone you're attracted to. The same part of your brain is signaling discomfort, urging you to retreat to the safety of inaction. But if you have repeatedly trained your mind to acknowledge that discomfort and act in spite of it during physical exertion, that social hesitation loses its power over you. You've already built the neural pathways for courageous action under duress. You know the feeling of discomfort intimately, and you know it is not a stop sign, but simply a sensation you can move through. This makes you remarkably equipped to handle the inherent unpredictability of dating, because you carry the unshakable knowledge that you are someone who does hard things by choice. This discipline naturally shapes your presence in a way that is quietly compelling. A man who is physically disciplined often carries himself with a different posture. His shoulders are back. His head is held high, not out of arrogance, but from a body that is accustomed to bearing weight and overcoming resistance. There is a grounded, capable energy to his movements. This isn't about having a bodybuilder's physique. It's about the visible confidence that comes from self-mastery. When you have voluntarily faced and conquered physical challenges, you walk into a room with the subtle aura of someone who is competent and resilient. A woman perceives this as a form of primal, non-verbal communication. It suggests that this is a man who can handle pressure, who is reliable in a crisis, and who possesses the fortitude to be a protector and a provider, not because he says so, but because his very demeanor communicates a history of overcoming obstacles. The ultimate goal of this exercise is the seamless integration of mind and body, ensuring your outer strength is a genuine reflection of your inner Stoic resolve. The Stoics believed in the holistic nature of the human being. A weak and undisciplined body can become a drain on the will, making it harder to maintain philosophical principles when fatigue or lethargy set in. By forging your body into a capable and resilient tool, you are creating a stable platform from which your virtue can operate unimpeded. You are less likely to be irritable, impatient, or insecure when you are physically vital and energized. The clarity and calm you cultivate through meditation and reflection are amplified when paired with a body that has been trained for endurance. This synergy creates a powerful feedback loop. The mental discipline you build in the gym helps you stay calm during an awkward silence on a date, and the social confidence you gain from applying Stoic principles gives you a deeper sense of purpose during your morning run. You become a unified, congruent individual where your physical presence authentically communicates the strength and stability of your character, making you not only more attractive but fundamentally more capable of navigating all of life's challenges with grace and power. Building directly on the clarity that comes from aligning our desires with virtue, we arrive at our 16th exercise, a deeply imaginative and transformative practice known as the contemplation of the sage. This is where you move beyond role models rooted in history or personal life and engage with a conceptual ideal, the Stoic sage, a figure of perfect wisdom and virtue. While the Stoics were practical enough to acknowledge that such perfection is likely unattainable, they firmly believed that the active pursuit of this ideal is what shapes a remarkable character. The power of this exercise lies not in achieving perfection, but in the constant, gentle upward pull it exerts on your thoughts, feelings, and actions. You are essentially creating an internal compass that always points toward your highest possible self, and then you begin navigating your daily life by its direction. Let's make this practical. The next time you find yourself in a situation that triggers a lower-level emotion like jealousy or insecurity, you pause and initiate a brief mental rehearsal. Imagine a version of yourself who is utterly unshakable, profoundly wise, and unconditionally compassionate. What would that idealized sage do right now? For instance, you're at a social gathering with a woman you've been seeing, and she is engaged in a lively, laughing conversation with another man. The untrained mind might instantly concoct a story of threat, triggering a surge of possessiveness or anxiety. You might feel the urge to interrupt, to subtly insert yourself, or to later make a passive-aggressive comment to reassert your presence. This is the reactive, ego-driven response. Now switch perspectives, close your eyes for just a moment internally and consult your sage. How does this perfectly virtuous being perceive the same scene? He feels zero jealousy because his self-worth is unassailable and requires no external guarding. He sees two human beings enjoying a conversation, which is a beautiful thing in itself. He feels genuine compassion for both of them and hopes they are having a meaningful exchange. His calm is unwavering because he understands that his connection with her is not so fragile that it can be broken by a single conversation. He doesn't feel the need to patrol her interactions or control the situation. He is content to be who he is, trusting that his own grounded, engaging presence is more than enough. Having completed this contemplation, you open your eyes and choose to act from that elevated place. You might give them a warm, genuine smile from across the room, or you might simply continue your own conversation, fully present and utterly secure. The action you take is now informed by wisdom, not fear. This practice is incredibly effective for navigating the subtle complexities of modern dating communication. Consider the common anxiety of being left on read when you send a message and see it has been read, but no reply comes for hours. The default reaction is often a spiral of overthinking. What did I say wrong? Is she losing interest? Should I send a follow-up? Now, apply the contemplation of the sage. The sage would look at the same situation with serene detachment. He would understand that other people's actions are outside his control and that their behavior is almost always a reflection of their own internal world. Their busy schedule, their shifting mood, their own complexities rather than a commentary on his value. The sage would feel no urge to send a needy follow-up message seeking validation. He would simply put his phone away and immerse himself in his own purposeful activities, his inner peace completely undisturbed by the silence. By regularly imagining this sage-like response, you train your nervous system to adopt it. What began as a mental exercise gradually becomes your instinctual way of being. The profound attractiveness of a man who practices this is multi-layered. On one level, he exhibits a level of emotional stability that is both rare and deeply comforting. He does not get drawn into petty dramas, he doesn't engage in jealous games, and he isn't rattled by minor social uncertainties. This creates an aura of immense strength. On another level, his actions are consistently guided by higher principles like compassion and understanding rather than by selfish insecurity. This makes him incredibly safe to be around. A woman senses that this is a man with whom she can be fully herself, express her own independence, and have a rich social life without it triggering a cascade of insecurity and conflict in him. He is a true partner, not a warden. By striving to embody these sage-like qualities, you are not pretending to be someone you're not. You are actively pulling your character upward toward its highest potential. You become a living example of strength and goodness, a man who isn't just playing the game but is actively redefining it through the sheer power of his own cultivated virtue. Our 17th exercise invites you to make a conscious and strategic withdrawal from the constant noise of the modern world, a practice of limiting your consumption of external stimuli. We live in an age of unprecedented access to media, entertainment, and social platforms, a fire hose of information and imagery that, while often entertaining, can be profoundly corrosive to the very stoic character we are working to build. This isn't about rejecting technology outright, but about practicing intentional moderation and recognizing that what you feed your mind directly shapes your desires, your expectations, and your capacity for genuine connection. Every hour spent passively scrolling through curated highlight reels of other people's lives is an hour not spent actively building your own. More dangerously, this constant consumption inflames unhealthy desires by presenting you with endless comparisons and unrealistic fantasies, while simultaneously fragmenting your attention until the deep, sustained focus required for meaningful conversation becomes a struggle. Think of your mind as a clear, calm pond. The endless stream of notifications, news alerts, and social media updates is like tossing a handful of pebbles into that water every few seconds. The surface becomes perpetually disturbed, choppy, and murky, making it impossible to see your own reflection clearly or to perceive the world around you with any depth. The discipline of limiting stimuli is the practice of letting the pebbles settle. It's about creating periods of quiet so that the sediment of external influence can sink, leaving your mind clear, calm, and capable of deep reflection. When you are not being constantly bombarded with images of ideal relationships, bodies, and lifestyles, your own desires become simpler and more authentic. You stop wanting a relationship that looks like a movie and start wanting a connection that feels real and grounded. You cease comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's highlight reel, which is the root of so much modern insecurity and neediness. A practical way to implement this is to designate specific, non-negotiable digital sunset periods each day. For the hour before you go to sleep and the first hour after you wake up, make your phone and other screens completely off limits. This simple habit has a transformative effect. The first hour of your day is no longer shaped by the agendas of news cycles or the curated lives of others. It becomes a sacred space for setting your own intentions, for reading a few pages of philosophy, or for simply enjoying the quiet of the morning with a clear mind. The last hour before sleep is no longer filled with the blue light and stimulating content that disrupts rest. It becomes the perfect time for your evening review, for reading a physical book, or for planning the next day with purpose. This creates a protective buffer around your consciousness, ensuring you start and end your day centered in your own world, not lost in the digital ether. The impact this has on your social presence is immediate and profound. A man who is not constantly plugged in is naturally more observant and engaged. When you're on a date, you aren't subconsciously checking for phantom vibrations in your pocket or mentally composing a witty post about the experience. Your phone stays put away and your attention remains fully on the person in front of you. You notice the subtle shifts in her expression, the tone of her voice, the small details in the environment around you. This quality of deep presence is something people feel viscerally. To be the recipient of someone's undivided, undistracted attention is a rare and powerful gift in our hyper-connected world. It communicates respect, value, and a genuine interest that cannot be faked. You become a more captivating conversationalist because you are actually processing what is being said, allowing you to ask more insightful questions and build on the conversation in a more organic and intelligent way. Furthermore, this discipline forces you to cultivate a rich inner life out of necessity. When you remove the easy escape of digital distraction, you are left with yourself. At first, this might feel uncomfortable, even boring, but soon you begin to rediscover the resources within you. You might pick up a long-forgotten instrument, start a new project, dive deeper into your Stoic studies, or simply learn to enjoy your own company on a walk without a podcast or playlist as a buffer. This process of turning inward is what builds true self-sufficiency. You become a source of your own entertainment, your own reflection, and your own peace. This makes you a far more interesting and complete person. You are no longer someone who needs to be constantly entertained or validated from the outside. You are a man with a rich internal world, someone who has things to talk about and think about that come from a place of genuine curiosity and depth. A woman interacting with this kind of man senses a distinct and compelling difference. He is not anxiously seeking external validation because he is grounded in his own pursuits and principles. His sense of self is not a collage of internet trends and opinions. It is a coherent identity built through introspection and action. This self-contained energy is incredibly attractive because it promises a relationship of two whole individuals coming together, not two halves trying to complete each other. It shows that you are capable of being content on your own, which means any time and attention you give to her is a genuine gift, not a desperate need. By consciously limiting the noise from the outside world, you amplify the signal of your own authentic self, creating a presence that is calm, focused, and deeply engaging, a man who is truly present in a world of perpetual distraction. Now we arrive at the very substance of how you communicate, the 18th exercise, which is the disciplined practice of speaking with clear purpose and concise power. This is the Stoic art of knowing when to add your voice and when to hold a thoughtful silence, ensuring that every word you choose to speak is not only true but also necessary and kind. The ancient Stoics viewed careless speech as a form of moral weakness, a leakage of character and focus. They believed that gossip, constant complaining, and boastful self-promotion were not just social missteps but active corruptions of the mind, training it to focus on the trivial, the negative, and the external validation you cannot control. This discipline, therefore, is not merely about etiquette. It is a rigorous training of your attention and intention, forcing you to become the master of your own internal dialogue before a single word ever leaves your lips. To implement this, you must cultivate a tiny but powerful pause between your thought and your speech. In that brief moment, you run a simple but transformative three-part filter for your words. First, ask yourself, is what I am about to say true? This eliminates exaggeration, white lies designed to impress, and the repetition of rumors. Second, is it necessary? This cuts through the urge to fill silence with meaningless chatter, to offer unsolicited opinions, or to steer the conversation back to yourself unnecessarily. Third, and this is the crucial Stoic addition rooted in the virtue of justice, is it kind? This does not mean being artificially nice or avoiding difficult truths. It means your words are intended to build up, to understand, or to connect rather than to tear down, to belittle, or to elevate yourself at another's expense. When your words consistently pass through this three-part filter, your communication undergoes a profound shift. It becomes lean, powerful, and imbued with a quiet authority. Let's translate this directly into a dating scenario. Imagine you're on a first date and the conversation turns to your professional lives. The man who lacks this discipline might launch into a long, detailed monologue about his job title, his recent successes, and his ambitious future plans, essentially using the conversation as a stage for a resume recital. He is speaking, but he is not truly connecting, he is performing. Now, observe the man who practices speaking with purpose and brevity. When asked about his work, he offers a concise, authentic summary. I'm a project manager for a construction firm. I enjoy the challenge of bringing a complex vision to life, of coordinating different teams to create something tangible. Then, with the same ease, he immediately turns the focus back to her with a genuine question. What about you? What part of your work genuinely energizes you? This pattern, a sincere, condensed answer followed by a thoughtful, open-ended question, is the hallmark of a masterful communicator. The impact this has on the dynamic of the interaction is immediate and powerful. By listening more than you talk, you accomplish several things at once. First, you gather invaluable information about the woman you're with, learning what truly matters to her, what her passions are, and how she thinks. This intelligence is far more useful than any pre-rehearsed talking point. Second, you make her feel profoundly heard and valued. You are communicating, through your attentive silence and your follow-up questions, that her thoughts and experiences are fascinating to you. This is a form of flattery that is both subtle and immensely powerful. And third, you create an aura of mystery and depth. When you are not constantly explaining yourself or seeking approval through your words, you allow your character to be revealed gradually through your actions and your attentive presence. This makes you intriguing. She is left wanting to know more rather than feeling she has already heard everything you have to offer. Consider the alternative to this discipline, the energy drain of a conversation filled with complaints or gossip. A man who spends a date complaining about his boss, his commute, or the state of the world is essentially broadcasting that he is a victim of his circumstances, that he lacks the inner resourcefulness to handle life's minor irritations. This is deeply unattractive. Similarly, a man who engages in gossip, talking negatively about mutual friends or colleagues, is silently communicating that he cannot be trusted, that his loyalty is conditional, and that he likely speaks about others the same way when they are not present. When you consciously abstain from these forms of speech, you are demonstrating something far more compelling. that your inner world is orderly and resilient, and that your character is grounded in integrity. Your silence on negative topics speaks volumes about your strength. This practice ultimately reveals a man who is confident enough to not need the spotlight at every moment. His sense of self is not so fragile that it requires constant verbal reinforcement. He can be comfortable in the quiet, knowing that his value is not measured by the volume of his words. This self-contained assurance is incredibly calming and attractive. It tells a woman that you are a safe space, a man who can handle a conversation with maturity and respect without turning it into a competition or a therapy session. Your words, when you do choose to offer them, carry weight because they are scarce and meaningful. Each one feels considered and authentic. This builds a foundation of trust that is essential for any deeper connection, proving that you are a man of substance whose actions and character do the real talking, making your carefully chosen words the valuable punctuation to a life well lived. Building directly on that discipline of limiting our daily consumption of digital noise, we arrive at a more intensive and systematic practice, our 19th exercise, which is the intentional scheduling of a regular digital detox. This is not just about cutting back for an hour here or there. It's about designating entire days or even a full weekend where you completely sever the digital tether to dating apps and the performative world of social media. The objective is twofold and profound. First, it is a radical act of reclamation, reclaiming your attention, your time, and your mental real estate from platforms designed to exploit them. Second, and more crucially, it is a dedicated period to actively reconnect with the tangible reality of your own life, your core values, and the physical world immediately around you. This practice serves as a powerful antidote to a subtle but corrosive modern phenomenon, the commodification of relationships where potential partners can start to feel like products in an endless catalog to be swiped through, evaluated, and discarded rather than as whole, complex human beings worthy of genuine curiosity and respect. When you step away from the artificial marketplace of dating apps, you create the necessary space to break this consumerist mindset. Without the constant stream of new profiles and the gamified thrill of matches, your mind is forced to slow down and re-engage with a different, more organic pace of life. This detox period is not meant to be a void or a punishment. It is an opportunity to be intensely productive in your personal growth. This is the perfect time to dive deep into the other Stoic exercises we've been building. You can dedicate uninterrupted hours to reading philosophy, not in snippets between notifications, but with deep, sustained focus. You can engage in a thorough and thoughtful evening review, free from the distraction of comparing your day to the curated highlights of others. You can invest in a demanding physical training session, connecting with the raw feedback of your body. And you can immerse yourself fully in your hobbies and passions, whether that's playing an instrument, working with your hands in a workshop, or simply taking a long, mindful walk in nature without the urge to document it for an audience. The ultimate goal is to use this disconnection from the digital world of potential partners to actively build a life that is so rich, engaging, and satisfying on its own terms that the presence of a partner becomes a wonderful addition, not a fundamental requirement for your happiness. Think of your life as a grand, vibrant castle. If you spend all your time standing at the gate looking out for someone to come and fill the empty halls, you are operating from a place of scarcity and desperation. The castle feels hollow, and that emptiness is palpable to anyone who approaches. But if you are busy inside that castle, filling the rooms with the music of your interests, the art of your accomplishments, the library of your knowledge, and the warmth of your friendships, you are building a life of abundance. When someone does come to the gate, you are not desperately beckoning them in to fill a void. You are inviting them to tour a fascinating and already complete estate, with the exciting possibility that they might choose to add a new wing. This fundamental shift from needing to wanting is perhaps the single most attractive quality you can cultivate. A man who emerges from a digital detox is not just refreshed, he is re-centered. When he does log back into a dating app or ask someone out in person, his energy is completely different. He is not there to find someone to complete him. He is there with the calm curiosity of someone who has a full and rewarding life and is open to the possibility of sharing it with a person he finds interesting and compatible. There is no hidden pressure, no frantic scanning for signs of commitment because his core happiness is not on the line. He is engaging from a position of choice, not a position of lack. This translates into every aspect of the interaction. His conversations are more relaxed and genuine. His standards are clearer because he knows what he has to offer, and he is far less likely to tolerate poor treatment or misalignment because he has a fulfilling life to return to. A woman's intuition is exquisitely sensitive to this distinction. She can feel when a man's attention comes from a place of genuine interest versus a place of lonely need. The man with a rich offline life is inherently more interesting because he has things to talk about that come from a place of authentic passion, not from a script designed to impress. He has stories about his hiking adventures, insights from the book he just finished, or the quiet satisfaction of a project he completed in his workshop. He doesn't need to interrogate her for entertainment. He can share from the abundance of his own experiences. This makes him a captivating conversationalist and a magnetic presence. He demonstrates that he is a capable, self-sufficient individual, the kind of man who can handle his own business and create his own joy, which is the foundation of a healthy, interdependent partnership rather than a draining, codependent one. By regularly scheduling these digital detoxes, you are not just taking a break from your phone. You are actively investing in the construction of a self that is so whole and compelling that the right partner will be naturally drawn to the vibrant, authentic life you have consciously built for yourself. Now, let's explore a pivotal exercise that truly separates the grounded man from the one constantly riding an emotional roller coaster. This is the practice of equanimity in the face of both success and failure. Imagine you've just had a fantastic date. The conversation was electric, the laughter came easily, and she texted you afterwards saying she had a wonderful time. The natural, untrained reaction is a surge of euphoria, a feeling that you finally won, and a temptation to immediately place a huge part of your emotional well-being on this promising new connection. On the flip side, picture receiving a polite but clear message that she doesn't see a romantic future. The untrained reaction here is a plunge into dejection, a narrative that you've lost, and a feeling that your entire self-worth has just been invalidated. The Stoic practice of equanimity is the conscious decision to navigate both of these extremes with the exact same internal compass of calm self-possession. It's not about denying the natural human feelings of pleasure or disappointment. It's about refusing to let those feelings become the master of your internal state. This is where you apply the core Stoic truth that your worth is inherent and constant, completely independent of any external outcome. A successful date is a preferred event, something to be enjoyed, but it is not a prize that adds to your fundamental value as a man. Similarly, a rejection is a dispreferred event, something you would have rather avoided, but it is not a verdict that subtracts from your character. When you receive that positive text, you allow yourself to feel a genuine sense of pleasure, but you do so without letting it inflate your ego or create a frantic attachment to the outcome. You smile, you feel grateful for the nice evening, and then you calmly return your focus to the other meaningful parts of your life, your work, your friends, your personal projects. You don't immediately start fantasizing about your future together or checking your phone obsessively for the next message. Your center of gravity remains firmly within you, not transferred over to her and her actions. The danger of becoming overly elated by a woman's interest is that it almost always manifests as neediness, even if it's subtle. When your happiness becomes contingent on her continued validation, you start to bend your own behavior to secure it. You might start replying too quickly, agreeing with everything she says, or showering her with excessive compliments in an attempt to keep the good feeling going. This subtle shift in energy is instantly detectable. It communicates that you are not a self-contained source of happiness, but are instead looking to her to provide it. Conversely, when you become deeply dejected by a lack of interest, you broadcast a profound insecurity. It tells the world, and more importantly, it tells yourself, that your sense of self is fragile and that it can be shattered by a single person's opinion. This emotional volatility is the antithesis of the stable, reassuring presence that is so compelling. So how do you train this? You begin by consciously moderating your reactions in the moment. When good news arrives, pause, take a deep breath and acknowledge the feeling of pleasure, but then consciously bring your focus back to your breath and the present moment. Remind yourself, this is a preferred outcome and I am grateful for it. My worth, however, was the same before this message and remains the same now. The goal is to enjoy the wave without letting it capsize your boat. When disappointing news comes, you apply the exact same technique. You pause, you acknowledge the sting of disappointment, you don't suppress it, and then you consciously return to your center. You remind yourself, this is a dispreferred outcome and I accept it. My value as a man is not determined by this single event. My character, my virtues, and my purpose remain intact. This is not about becoming an emotionless robot. It is about being the one who decides how much your emotions get to dictate your inner peace. This cultivated equanimity projects a level of maturity and inner strength that is incredibly rare and deeply attractive. A woman quickly realizes that she is interacting with a man who is not going to put her on a pedestal, which can feel smothering and create pressure, nor is he going to fall apart if she needs space or has a differing opinion. Your steady demeanor communicates that you are a safe emotional investment. She can be herself around you without worrying that her every word and action will trigger a dramatic high or low in your mood. This stability is profoundly reassuring. It tells her that you are a man who can handle reality as it comes, who won't create unnecessary drama, and who possesses the emotional capacity to be a true partner through both good times and challenges. You become a rock in the shifting tides of life, and that is a quality people are instinctively drawn to because it promises consistency, safety, and a relationship built on mutual respect rather than emotional dependency. We now come to an exercise that beautifully ties together the threads of intention and surrender, giving you a practical mental tool for navigating any situation where you must act without controlling the result. This is the 21st practice, employing the reserve clause in all your endeavors. In Stoic philosophy, this is the simple but profound habit of adding the silent, mental caveat, fate permitting, or the universe willing, to every goal you set and every action you take. It is the ultimate declaration that you are the captain of your efforts, but not the master of the seas. You commit to your action with 100% of your focus and energy, while simultaneously holding the outcome with an open hand, fully accepting that the final result is a complex web of factors, most of which lie far beyond your personal control. Imagine you are about to ask someone out on a date. The standard, untrained approach is to fixate entirely on the single, desired outcome, a yes. Your entire emotional state becomes a hostage to that one word. This sets you up for a psychological roller coaster. If she says yes, you experience a rush of euphoria. If she says no, you feel a plunge into dejection. Your worth feels contingent on her response. Now, let's replay that same scenario with the reserve clause activated. You approach her with the exact same confidence and charm. You offer the same genuine, well-worded invitation. But internally, your goal is framed differently. Your complete goal is not simply, she must say yes. Your goal is, I will courageously and respectfully express my interest, fate permitting a positive response. You have done your part impeccably, and you have already made peace with any potential outcome before you even receive it. The magic of this practice is how it systematically dismantles the fear of failure that so often paralyzes men from taking action. When you have already philosophically accepted that a no is a valid and acceptable part of the universe's unfolding plan, the terrifying specter of rejection loses its power. You are no longer asking her to validate you. You are offering her an opportunity to connect, and you are prepared to honor her choice, whatever it may be. This completely changes the energy you project. There is no subtle hint of desperation, no tense anticipation in your body language. You are relaxed, open, and genuinely present because you are not mentally living in a future you are trying to force into existence. You are simply performing a virtuous action, the action of courageous self-expression, and then you are ready to accept the result with serene dignity. Let's apply this to the follow-up after a wonderful first date. You're considering sending a text to let her know you had a great time and would like to see her again. Without the reserve clause, sending that text can feel like launching a nuclear missile with your self-esteem in the warhead. You hit send and then enter a state of agony, constantly checking your phone, interpreting every minute of silence as a bad sign, and feeling your mood swing with every notification. With the reserve clause, the process is entirely different. You compose a warm, authentic message. As your thumb hovers over the send button, you consciously add the mental postscript, fate permitting. You then send it and your job is done. You have performed the virtuous action of expressing continued interest and appreciation. What happens next is now in the hands of fortune. You can put your phone away and return your attention fully to your work, your workout, or your friends, your inner peace undisturbed by the waiting. This combination of determined action and serene acceptance is a display of maturity that is incredibly compelling. A woman may not hear the words fate permitting in your head, but she will feel the results in your demeanor. She will interact with a man who is confident enough to put himself out there without demanding a specific result. She senses that your invitation is a sincere offer, not a desperate plea. This makes her feel safe and respected, not pressured. Furthermore, if a no does come, your graceful response becomes a powerful final impression. Instead of awkwardness, bitterness, or a needy request for an explanation, you respond with a simple, "I understand, thank you for letting me know. I wish you all the best." This demonstrates a level of emotional strength and self-respect that is far more memorable and attractive than most successful dates. It shows that you are a man of substance who understands that life is a dance with chance, and you have learned the steps of graceful participation, regardless of the music that plays. And so we arrive at a practice that might seem counter to the serious, disciplined image of Stoicism, but is in fact one of its most profound expressions of inner freedom, the cultivation of a genuine sense of humor and lightness. This is not about becoming a stand-up comedian or using pre-rehearsed jokes to entertain. It's about developing a fundamental shift in your perspective, where you learn to see the inherent absurdity in so much of human social life, especially the high-stakes performance we often turn dating into. The Stoics were realists, and a clear-eyed look at reality reveals that life is often ridiculous, and we are frequently the source of our own comedy. A man who can recognize this and laugh along with it, especially at himself, demonstrates a level of security that is both rare and deeply disarming. Think of this as the practical application of the view from above, brought down to earth. When you're able to zoom out and see your own flustered attempt to open a sticky jar for your date, or your momentary brain freeze when you forget her friend's name from a cosmic perspective, what is it? It's a brief, harmless, and utterly human moment of imperfection. The man with a fragile ego interprets these events as catastrophic failures that chip away at his meticulously constructed image. He tenses up, he gets embarrassed, he tries to overcompensate, and in doing so, he amplifies the awkwardness, making everyone uncomfortable. The Stoic man, grounded in the knowledge that his worth is not contingent on flawless performance, sees the same event for what it is, a funny thing that happened. He can smile, shake his head, and with a warm, self-deprecating tone say, well, my suave and coordinated performance is clearly not happening tonight. And then effortlessly move on. This ability to laugh at yourself is the ultimate signal of non-neediness. It broadcasts to the world that your ego is not a delicate piece of china that must be protected at all costs. You are secure enough to acknowledge your own humanness, your own occasional clumsiness, without it causing an internal crisis. This makes you incredibly easy and fun to be around. A woman doesn't feel she has to walk on eggshells around you, worried that a small joke or an unexpected turn of events will trigger your defensiveness. She feels permission to be her own imperfect self, to laugh freely, and to relax into the moment. Your lightness gives her lightness. This creates a shared space of playfulness and authenticity that is the absolute antithesis of a stiff, formal interview-style date. Let's be clear about what this is not. This is not about deflecting every serious moment with a joke, which is a form of emotional avoidance. It's not about becoming the class clown who seeks attention through constant humor. The Stoic virtue of wisdom guides you to know the difference. It's the difference between using humor to connect and using it to protect. For example, if she shares something vulnerable about a past disappointment, the appropriate response is empathy and attentive listening, not a witty quip. But if you yourself trip on a curb while walking together, the wise and connecting response is to laugh it off, showing that minor physical grace isn't a pillar of your identity. This discernment shows emotional intelligence. You understand the context and you use humor as a tool to ease tension and build rapport, not as a shield to keep genuine connection at bay. This playful demeanor becomes a powerful tool for reframing entire situations. Imagine a date where the restaurant is overwhelmingly loud, the service is comically slow, and your order arrives completely wrong. The man who takes himself too seriously will become irritated, complain to the waiter, and let the entire evening be ruined by circumstances outside his control. He is fighting reality, and as the Stoics would say, what is more foolish than fighting reality? The man practicing Stoic lightness, however, sees the same situation as a shared adventure. He might lean in and say with a grin, "Well, I think the universe is testing our patience tonight. I'm curious to see what culinary surprise they bring out next." This doesn't solve the slow service, but it completely transforms the experience. Instead of being a negative memory, it becomes a funny story you're creating together. You are no longer victims of the environment. You are co-conspirators finding the humor in the chaos. This ability to alchemize frustration into a shared laugh is a social superpower. The profound appeal of this lightness of being is that it signals a high level of emotional health and intelligence. It shows that you have your priorities in order. You understand that the goal of a date is not to execute a perfect script, but to enjoy a genuine connection with another person, and that genuine connection is often forged in the imperfect, unscripted, and sometimes hilariously flawed moments. A man who isn't desperately trying to manage every detail to maintain a perfect image is a man who is truly present. He is watching, listening, and engaging with what is actually happening, not with what he wishes were happening. This presence is magnetic. It tells her that you are more interested in the real, unfolding experience with her than you are in protecting your own ego. By learning not to take yourself, your dating life, or minor social mishaps so seriously, you unlock a relaxed, confident, and joyful way of being that is not only deeply stoic but also irresistibly attractive. This brings us to a practice that is less about how you interact with the world and more about how you allow the world to interact with you. Our 23rd exercise is the crucial work of defining and, more importantly, upholding your personal boundaries. In the context of Stoicism, this is a direct and practical application of the virtue of justice, but in this case, the justice you are serving is for yourself. It is the recognition that your time, your energy, and your emotional peace are valuable, finite resources, and that it is not only your right but your responsibility to be a good steward of them. A boundary is not a wall you build out of fear or hostility. It is a gate you consciously manage, deciding what you will allow into the sacred space of your life and what you will respectfully but firmly keep out. The first step is the internal work of clearly identifying your non-negotiables. These are not petty preferences or arbitrary rules. They are the fundamental principles that protect your core values and your ability to live a virtuous life. For instance, a non-negotiable value might be respect for your time. A boundary stemming from that value could be that you do not tolerate chronic lateness or last-minute cancellations without a compelling reason. Another value might be honest communication. The corresponding boundary would be that you will not engage with passive aggression, silent treatments, or manipulative guilt-tripping. A third might be the preservation of your inner peace, which could lead to a boundary against being someone's emotional dumping ground without reciprocal support. You must sit down and write these out with absolute clarity, because you cannot uphold a boundary that is vague or poorly defined. Now comes the real test, the practice of communicating and upholding these boundaries calmly and firmly, without a trace of anger or an ounce of unnecessary apology. This is where Stoic composure becomes your most powerful tool. Imagine a scenario where someone you've started dating begins consistently texting you late into the night with dramatic, attention-seeking messages that disrupt your sleep and your morning focus. The untrained, reactive response might be to either become a resentful doormat, replying each time and building silent anger, or to eventually lash out with an angry text telling them to stop, which creates conflict and drama. The Stoic approach is entirely different. You wait for a calm moment and then state your boundary with the detached clarity of a judge reading a verdict. You might say, "I've noticed you often text about heavy topics late at night. I need to be fully rested and focused for my days, so I won't be responding to messages after 10 p.m. I'm happy to talk about these things when we're together in person or during the day." Notice the language. It is not, "You are wrong for texting me," which is an attack, but "I need. So I will not," which is a statement of your own policy. The profound attractiveness of this practice lies in the powerful message it sends about your self-respect. When a woman sees that you have clear, non-negotiable lines regarding how you will be treated, and that you uphold them without anger or emotional pleading, she perceives a man who knows his own worth. Anger in boundary enforcement reveals that you are emotionally hooked, that your peace is dependent on the other person's compliance. A calm, firm stance, on the other hand, demonstrates that your peace is an internal state that you are simply protecting from external disruption. It shows that your sense of self is so solid that you do not need to yell to be heard. You state your position once clearly, and then you let your actions do the reinforcing. If the late-night texts continue, you simply do not respond. You are not punishing her, you are consistently honoring the boundary you set for yourself. This practice acts as an incredibly effective filter, automatically sifting for people who are capable of healthy, respectful relationships. A person with strong character and self-awareness will hear your boundary and respect it, often feeling more secure in the process because they know where they stand. A person who is manipulative, self-centered, or disrespectful will test, challenge, or ignore your boundary. Their reaction gives you all the information you need. They will reveal themselves not through your interrogation, but through their response to your simple, stated principles. This saves you an immense amount of time, energy, and heartache. You are no longer trying to convince someone to value you. You are observing whether their natural behavior aligns with your values, and you are making decisions accordingly. Think of the alternative, a man with porous or non-existent boundaries. He says he's busy but cancels his plans the moment she seems disappointed. He says he values honesty but laughs along when she makes a hurtful joke. He says he wants a relationship but remains available for casual, undefined situations that drain his emotional resources. This man is not being nice or easygoing. He is broadcasting that his own principles are for sale, available to be negotiated away for a moment of approval or the fear of conflict. This is deeply unattractive because it signals a lack of inner backbone. A woman may enjoy the initial ease of getting her way, but she will never truly feel safe with a man whose boundaries are so fluid, because she will intuitively know that he cannot be relied upon to stand firm when real challenges arise. A man with well-defined and calmly upheld boundaries presents as a safe and reliable partner. He demonstrates that he has a clear moral and emotional structure, which provides a sense of predictability and safety in a relationship. She knows that he will not resort to passive aggression or explosive anger when a disagreement arises. He will communicate his position clearly and respect hers. She knows that he will not betray his own values, which means he is far less likely to betray her trust. This fosters a profound sense of security. Furthermore, by respecting your own boundaries, you implicitly give her permission to respect her own, creating a relationship dynamic built on mutual respect rather than codependency or control. You become a man who is not threatened by the independence of his partner because your own sense of self is firmly rooted in your unwavering principles. This is not about being rigid or controlling. It is about being so secure in who you are that you can engage in a relationship as a whole, independent person, offering your partnership from a place of strength and choice, not from neediness or fear. Now, let's explore a particularly powerful mental exercise that seems paradoxical at first, but can fundamentally reshape your relationship with your own identity and what you believe makes you attractive. This is our 24th practice, negative visualization applied to your possessions and external attributes. Just as we previously used premeditatio malorum to rehearse potential social challenges, we now turn that same powerful lens onto the very things we often mistakenly rely on for our sense of self-worth. Our job, our car, our physical fitness, our wardrobe, even our social status. The Stoic aim here is not to cultivate a morbid fear of loss, but to achieve a liberating detachment. By periodically and calmly visualizing life without these external trappings, you perform a direct and visceral reality check, proving to yourself through lived mental experience that your core value, the person you actually are, would remain completely intact. Take a quiet moment and deliberately walk through this mental exercise. Close your eyes and picture it clearly. Imagine your most prized material possession, perhaps the car you worked hard to acquire. Now visualize it being gone. See the empty space in the garage. Feel the initial pang of loss, but then watch yourself carrying on. You are still the same man with the same capacity for courage, humor, and kindness. Your character remains untouched. Now apply this to your career. Visualize losing your job and the prestigious title that comes with it. Feel the temporary fear and uncertainty, but then see yourself adapting, starting anew, your fundamental virtues of resilience and diligence becoming your only true currency. Finally, and this is perhaps the most challenging, apply it to your physical self. Imagine losing the very attributes you believe contribute to your attractiveness, your athletic build, your full head of hair, your youthful energy. Visualize yourself having to navigate the social world without them. This isn't about self-punishment, it's a fearless inquiry into the actual source of your worth. When you transfer this practice to the dating world, its impact is transformative. So much of the anxiety men feel when approaching women stems from a hidden, unexamined belief that their value is tied to their resume, their bank statement, or their physical appearance. You subconsciously feel you are offering a package, and you fear the package will be judged and found wanting. Negative visualization systematically dismantles this false equation. After genuinely contemplating life without your job title, you arrive at a date understanding that it is just something you do, not who you are. You can talk about your work with passion, but you no longer lead with it as your primary selling point because you know, on a gut level, that it's a superficial detail in the grand scheme of your character. This realization creates a seismic shift in how you interact. A man who knows his worth is rooted in his integrity, his humor, and his resilience carries himself differently than a man who is secretly hoping his new watch or his vacation stories will impress her. The first man is grounded and present, the second is performing and seeking validation. Consider two men on a date. The first, who has not done this work, subtly steers the conversation toward his recent promotion and the expensive restaurant he can now afford. He is trying to prove his worth through externals. The second man, who has practiced negative visualization, is free from this need. He is just as likely to talk passionately about a hobby that earns him no money or a volunteer project that fills him with purpose. He is sharing his enthusiasms, not his resume. He listens more because he isn't mentally rehearsing how to mention his bonus. He is genuinely curious about her because he isn't desperate for her to validate his lifestyle. This grounded presence is what a woman truly connects with. She might appreciate a nice car or a successful career, but these are fleeting preferences. What creates lasting, magnetic attraction is the unshakable sense that you are a man of substance beneath the surface. When she sees that you are not trying to sell her on your external achievements, she feels you are offering your true self. This is incredibly refreshing and deeply reassuring. It tells her that if life takes a difficult turn, if a financial setback occurs, or if age changes your appearance, your core self, the man she was drawn to, will remain constant. You are not a facade that could crumble under pressure. You become a reliable source of strength, not because of what you have, but because of who you are at your essence. A man who is grounded in his character rather than his possessions interacts with a quiet confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. He knows that the most attractive thing he can offer is not his wallet or his job title, but the quality of his attention, the depth of his conversation, and the unwavering strength of his integrity. And that is a proposition that stands the test of time. And so we arrive at the final and most important exercise of all, the one that is not really an exercise at all, but a state of being. This is the practice of integration, the conscious weaving of all these 24 previous practices into the very fabric of your daily existence until Stoic virtue is no longer something you do, but something you are. Think of the journey we have undertaken together. It began with preparing your mind for adversity and ended with grounding your worth in your unshakable character. In between, you have trained yourself to act with purpose, to listen with full attention, to love your fate, to uphold your boundaries with calm firmness, and to find lightness in the face of life's inherent absurdity. Each exercise was a single thread, a specific skill or perspective. Now, the work is to loom all those individual threads together into a single, unbreakable tapestry of character. This integration means that when you walk into a room, when you engage in conversation, when you face disappointment or success, you are not frantically trying to recall which Stoic principle to apply. Instead, your entire way of being has become the living embodiment of those principles. Your reactions are now guided by a deep, internalized wisdom that operates faster than conscious thought. This fundamental shift transforms the entire dynamic of your interactions, especially with women. You are no longer a man using Stoicism as a tool to become more attractive. That very framing implies a separation between you and the philosophy, a sense that you are performing a role to achieve an external result. When integration is complete, that separation vanishes. You are now a man whose character is inherently composed of resilience, integrity, confidence, and depth. The attractive qualities we have discussed throughout this video, the unshakable composure, the genuine presence, the self-sufficient abundance, are no longer goals you are striving for. They have become natural byproducts, the inevitable overflow of the man you have deliberately built yourself into. You stand out not because you are trying to stand out, but because the quality of your presence is so fundamentally different from the norm. In a world of performance and posturing, you are a reality. In a social landscape filled with men seeking validation, you are a source of grounded self-assurance. This is not an act, it is your authentic state. Consider the profound difference this makes in a conversation. A man who is practicing active listening is still, on some level, conscious of the technique. He is reminding himself to make eye contact, to ask follow-up questions, to avoid interrupting. There is a slight, almost imperceptible friction, a sense of mental effort. The man who has integrated this practice simply listens. His attention is naturally and effortlessly fully given because his character has been shaped into that of a truly curious and present individual. The technique has dissolved into his nature. The same is true for every other exercise. The premeditatio malorum is no longer a morning ritual you schedule. It is your default way of processing future events, a natural tendency to meet the world with prepared equanimity. The view from above is not a visualization you struggle to conjure in moments of stress. It is the ever-present backdrop of your perspective, a constant awareness of the cosmic scale that keeps daily dramas in their proper proportion. This is the ultimate key to standing out because it makes you a man of substance on the deepest possible level. Superficial charm can be learned in a weekend. A set of clever openers can be memorized, but a character forged in the fires of Stoic practice cannot be faked, and it cannot be rushed. It is earned through the daily, often difficult, commitment to self-mastery. When a woman interacts with you, she is not engaging with a collection of techniques. She is connecting with a coherent and consistent human being. She senses the alignment between your words, your actions, and your underlying principles. There are no hidden agendas, no incongruences, no desperate attempts to manage her perception of you. You are simply and powerfully yourself. This authenticity is the most compelling invitation for trust and intimacy because it promises a relationship with a person who is real, reliable, and rooted in something far more substantial than the shifting sands of social approval. Your journey does not end here, it simply changes its nature. The conscious effort of practicing individual exercises gradually gives way to the more subtle and rewarding work of living out your philosophy in every facet of your life, in your career, your friendships, your family, and your personal ambitions. The confidence you have built will radiate through everything you do, making you more decisive and capable. The resilience you have cultivated will allow you to navigate professional setbacks and personal losses with a grace that inspires others. The integrity you have forged will become your guiding star in every ethical choice you face. This is the true gift of Stoicism. It begins as a path to becoming more attractive to women, but it reveals itself as the path to becoming a better man, period. And when you become that man, a man of principle, purpose, and profound inner peace, you will find that you no longer need to seek attraction. You will have become a magnet, naturally drawing people and opportunities toward the solid, authentic, and truly standout individual you have chosen to become. And so we have journeyed together through these 25 Stoic exercises, from the mental fortress built each morning to the graceful way we handle both success and setback. This is not a checklist to be completed in a week or a bag of clever tricks to be used on a Friday night. It is something far more profound and enduring, a comprehensive blueprint for the deliberate construction of a character so solid, so virtuous, and so self-assured that it becomes inherently magnetic. The goal was never to teach you how to pretend to be an interesting man, but to guide you in the hard, rewarding work of actually becoming one. When you shift your entire focus from trying to control the uncontrollable, the opinions of others, the outcomes of dates, the whims of chance, and pour all that energy into the one thing you truly command, which is your own mind, your intentions, and your actions, a remarkable transformation begins. You stop performing and start being. The anxiety that once fueled desperate attempts to impress simply evaporates, replaced by a calm, grounded presence that speaks louder than any boastful story or expensive accessory ever could. This is the core of authentic attraction. It cannot be gamed or manipulated because it flows from the truth of who you are. A woman's intuition is a powerful instrument, finely tuned to detect the smallest inconsistencies between a man's words and his deeper character. When she encounters a man who is genuinely at peace with himself, who knows his own worth without needing to announce it, who listens with full attention because he is not trapped in his own head seeking approval, and who can navigate both laughter and difficulty with the same steady composure, she is encountering something rare and real. This is not about becoming a stoic statue with no emotions. It is about becoming a man whose emotions are informed by wisdom, not controlled by fear. Your resilience becomes reassuring, your integrity becomes trustworthy, your playful lightness becomes a joy to be around. You stand out not because you are the loudest or the flashiest, but because you are an oasis of authenticity in a desert of posturing. Let us be perfectly clear one final time. This path is the absolute opposite of using Stoicism as a pickup tactic. To approach these exercises with the hidden goal of getting women is to miss the entire point and to guarantee failure. The moment you try to use this philosophy as a means to an end, you have stepped out of virtue and back into the needy, outcome-dependent mindset we have worked so hard to dismantle. The transformation only works when the goal is the transformation itself. Your aim must be to become a better man, more courageous, more disciplined, more just, and more wise for its own sake. You are building a life of character and purpose because that is what a good life is. The incredible, almost magical side effect is that this kind of life, lived by this kind of man, is irresistibly attractive. The attraction is not the target you aim for, it is the natural shadow cast by a life lived in the light of virtue. It follows you, it surrounds you, but you are not chasing it. Your journey of integration begins now, in the choices you make today and every day after. It will be found in the patience you exercise when someone cuts you off in traffic, in the integrity you show when no one is watching, in the courage you summon to have a difficult conversation, and in the gratitude you feel for the simple fact of being alive. This is a lifelong practice, a continuous returning to these principles, not a destination you arrive at. There will be days you stumble, moments you forget your training and react from old, insecure patterns. This is not failure, it is data. It is an opportunity to return to your evening review, to learn and to recommit. The path of the Stoic is not one of perfection, but of perpetual progress. We have shared this exploration, and now the next step is yours. We would be honored to hear about your own experiences. As you reflect on these 25 exercises, which one resonated with you on the deepest level? Was it the mental freedom of the reserve clause, the grounding perspective of the view from above, or the empowering clarity of defining your boundaries? What has been your single biggest takeaway from our time together? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. Your story could be the very thing that inspires another man to begin his own transformation. And if you are ready to continue this journey, to dive deeper into living a life of virtue, impact, and profound purpose, we invite you to subscribe and join our community. This is not the end, but a new beginning. The road to becoming the man you are meant to be is the most rewarding adventure you will ever undertake.